you for having me. This is a treat to meet with people who have similar interests and talk about some of my passions. My educational background is anthropology, so I tend to slant towards culture and politics. I want to go over a few things with you. You have some handouts. I intentionally had this format so that you can have available to you email addresses, phone numbers, so that you can, in the end result, hopefully contact your Congress people and your senators. I think this is something that we just don't do enough of, not just to give them, disparage them about some particular issue, but to thank them for some of the things that we feel that they're doing right. But in particular, with the National Organization for Women, I became aware of the National Organization for Women when I was in high school. And they were just forming in 1966. There were 28 women, very courageous women, and the men who loved them, who sat down together and formed this organization mainly to deal with the civil rights of women and our interaction with men in society. I thought, oh, this is so cool. In any case, I graduated and went on to college in Southern California, but have always kept in touch with the organization because I like statistics, and they have fabulous statistics. They're always right on, they're accurate, and I'm going to share some of that information with you now. The National Organization for Women, they are deeply concerned and troubled about the huge cuts to domestic spending that the House leadership is promoting. There are nutrition programs that they're cutting. Nutrition programs for low-income pregnant women, new mothers, infants. They are totally eliminating, and yes, that's totally eliminating Title X family planning funds that provide a range of life-saving services. There's public health issues, the teen pregnancy prevention. They're cutting it by $1 billion collectively. These are enormous amounts of money. These are funds that are spent on necessary services for citizens in this country, and they're proposing to eliminate them. They're also, and I'm concerned about this as well, the reductions in senior services. And I think collectively we all recognize that those people who target women's issues, they're also going to be cutting off the legs of education for our children, K through 12, and infants. So we are all together in this salad bowl, so to speak. Seniors, women, children K through 12, and infant services. The educational programs that they're cutting, low-income college students will suffer. They're eradicating things like vocational and technical training, attention for special ed students. I taught for a while for the Catholic Diocese, and anyone who's taught or anyone who has had children or nieces or nephews knows that we're all gifted and we're all special, but we're not all gifted and not all special in all areas. So the fact that they're cutting back on those most vulnerable portions of our population are more than alarming. We should be in the streets. This is really outrageous to talk about nutritional cuts and educational cuts for special ed kiddos. Also, just on a final note for now, we're deeply disturbed that they would be cutting funds for Social Security, so that those of us who are eventually in the next few years going to be reaching the age of retirement they are not going to have the staff they need to process the applications for people who are applying for Social Security. N.O.W's main purpose, when it was formed, was to, the original 1966 statement of purpose, I think, is so profound, is so simple. To take action to bring women into full participation and in the mainstream of American society now, exercising all the privileges and responsibilities in equal partnership with men. Very simple. If you'll look through your information, there's a couple of things I also want to bring to your attention. Of course, there's the Take Action Now from the organization. It goes out to all the members. You can be a member for as little as $10. The Take Action Now, they have a very good network in letting us know statistical information and what is actually going on politically. This came out on Friday, March the 14th. I think it is appropriate to say that the House Republican budget does wage war on women for those pieces of information that I gave you. If you look at the next page, the cuts that endanger women's health, and Abby will elaborate on this a little further in a moment. Cuts to vital food programs in this country. Cuts that threaten women's economic security and the workforce. Cuts to education programs. Head Start, $1 billion for Head Start. That's 15% of their budget. Yes?
Where are the jobs?
I'm sorry?
The jobs. They're supposed to be getting more. I'm sorry, I didn't think this issue.
Are you kidding? Oh my gosh. That's another avenue. Also cuts to housing. Low-income housing. Housing for the elderly. 67% cut in housing for the elderly. 67%. $551 million. Housing for people with disabilities. $210 million. That's 70% of their budget. We're talking enormous numbers here, folks. Yes.
Just to put this in perspective, one F-35 fighter costs $1.2 billion. One.
Well, don't get me started on where we should actually be taking our budget cuts. The next article I thought was really very interesting and pertinent for all of us living in this state. This was in Sunday's Chronicle. It's the actual costs of the Medicaid funds that is being, we're going to give up $10 million worth of funds that we could have on a federal level. It's going to cost us another $20 because we won't be matching those funds, and we'll pay an additional $10 million when people who would have had those funds could go to their own physician or to a clinic or hospital. They're going to end up in the emergency room. So not taking advantage of this $10 billion, $7 to $10 billion that's offered us here in the state of Texas is actually going to cost us about $30. Next, there are some calls for proposals for the N.O.W conference. If you're interested in an organization that is totally for the welfare of women and people who love women and children, take a look at this diverse group. They have a lot to offer everyone. I think it's not just a feminist organization. It is a women's organization, and there's a place for everyone. And they have, as I said, really outstanding statistical information that you can follow on a regular basis. Abby will also touch on this just a moment. I see things that I think are outrageous on a regular basis when it comes to politics in this country, but this, yeah, it just has to be up there. There is a bill that will allow public hospitals to let pregnant women die rather than perform an abortion for them. Abortion is not a happy subject. This is not something that I think should be on any political plank anyway. It is a medical issue. But this kind of, this is not only inhumane, this is outrageous. I think, and as I said, Abby will touch on that. With respect to health care and NOW's perspective on health care, they do take some lead from the National Coalition on Health Care in that we know that our health care is rapidly changing. There's some areas that are of real concern to all of us, and that's not just the quality of health care, but the continuing rising costs, and the large increasing numbers of people without health care. Now there are some statistics that indicate that as much as 67% of the people in this country either they don't have adequate health care or they have no health care. 67%. My son-in-law is a pharmacist. He's British. Oh my gosh, healthcare in America. The rest of the world is not, that has a national health care, they're not smarter than we are. They are more committed to their citizens. We get what we pay for, and we are just not paying for it. We are going to end up paying more for it tax-wise when people who are uninsured or underinsured end up in the emergency room. So now it's very interested in health care coverage for all, cost management, improvement of health care quality and safety, equitable financing, and simplified administration. And lastly, there's an article here from Bill White about Governor Perry's proposed 20% cut in education. And I just want to read a quote from Margaret Mead in closing. A small group of thoughtful people could change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And I saw this and I thought this was appropriate for that small
Can we get a little,
group.
Charlotte, could you, while she's got that holding up and you were there, could you come and do a photo op right here next to Sheryl? She's got it. This is for the website. Now, y'all will see me doing this from here on out.
I particularly
I was there. I'm in that picture.
Oh, the picture. Hold it up for my camera guy. Hold it down.
I particularly like the one that says, open for business, closed for education.
Yeah.
And flunk Perry, and stupid is as stupid does.
I like the one that said Perry was and the legislators were products of our Texas educational system.
Oh, that's
I did hear that.
Jana was there in Austin on Saturday as well.
I'm going to pass the podium on to Abby. Thank you so much for letting me visit with you. Any questions that I might be able to answer or?
Now we're going to get on. We're going to go ahead and move on.
All right.
Thank you, Sheryl.
Thank you.